So the first question we got was from over on Reddit, and it is from the Cactus Mantis. And they say, what do you think of the rule in MBTI that every function in your stack needs the opposite one? They go on to say, it's kind of hard to believe that there's no one out there that has TI and FI, or NE and SE, even though it makes sense that your functions should be balanced. Have you ever seen anyone with a type that you couldn't pin down because they look like they break this rule? So I want to talk about why that is a rule and why that would be so difficult to break. So the way to think of TI and FI is like functions that are on the opposite sides of the poles. You have a north pole and a south pole. And you can see this very clearly when you look at the walk. You can look at the dominant function, and all the way down at the eighth function is that polar opposite. It's the same, but the opposite. It is a perceiving function, but the opposite. So if you are NE, then the opposite function of that is also a perceiving function, also extroverted, but it is sensing. And those are the opposites. Those are the polarities. So everything in cognitive functions works on a yin-yang axis. And I do talk about the 8 cognitive function stack. You can watch the video on the unconscious functions on why I believe that's a worthy extension of Carl Jung's original theory. So that is how we want to look at those when we talk about this. And so I'll go ahead and put $1 in the analogy jar. And I like to think of these when you say, why can't you use TI, introverted thinking, and FI at the same time? Why can't they be in your main ego or functions? And that's because they are the polar opposites. They are so far removed. Other function is going to be so far down that it would be like looking through the opposite ends of the telescope at the same time. And you simply can't do that. That's not where your focus is. And it would be physically impossible to do that anyway. So if you are looking through one end of the telescope and your focus is on the stars and the cosmos, and that's where your interest is, and that is all the information that you believe is important, then you're not going to be looking. You can't also look at the other end of the telescope and look down at the ground and see the microscopic, things that are going on there, and all the edges of every blade of grass and life forms that are going on in that detail. You can't look through both at the same time. Yes, you can try to focus on the other one that you don't have an interest in and really try to bring that into your consciousness, but you're so busy looking through one end of the telescope that you're not really interested in looking down, or you're so interested in looking down that you're not interested in looking up. And you can't do them at the same time. They're not going to be in the same place. And one of the things that I mentioned in the unconscious functions video is that if you're looking at one type of information, so if you're looking at TI, introverted logic, then you are automatically having to repress the other function. So you're automatically repressing your own feelings because you believe that logic is the more important information, the more important truth, and that's what makes up your type. That's your preference. So you suppress and you repress the other information that is counter to you. It is counterintuitive. So that's why you're not going to have those same but opposite functions in the main ego functions. They are repressed, they're pushed down, you don't value them, and why they're not going to be in your main ego set, because if you automatically focus on one, you automatically repress the other. So our next comment comes from Ollie36 on Reddit, and they made a comment and said, I'm so bad at talking. I'm an INTJ and I can't express what I mean with words. I can't find them when I need them. It feels like people think I'm dumb because I can't communicate well. I feel looked down on, like I'm the stupid one, even though I know I'm not. Is this normal? And I would say that this is normal to feel this way for the introverted intuition dominant. And the reason that this is because the introverted intuitive wants to speak about something that's going to take a minute. It's going to take a while to kind of get down to why this is so important, what the meaning of it is. And whenever they're trying to do that, getting into that introverted intuition in real time and bringing that out is very difficult, because it right away puts you in your inferior SE. You are suddenly on the spot. You have to be very present, and you notice that this person's checked out, they're already getting bored. And so, you're really being put into your inferior SE in that moment, and you feel like you don't have the time that it's going to take for you to get down into that deeper meaning that you're trying to get to. And you may have to feel like you have to talk through it, but you don't have the time. It's right now. Everybody wants to hear what you have to say, and they want you to get through it. Kind of hurry up, get to the point. But that's not how your mind works. You have to follow that path down to why it is so important, why this point is so important, and you don't have that in the present, in being immediate, and it becomes very difficult, and you feel like you just need to hurry through it and kind of blurt out what the point is, and it feels very rushed and it feels incomplete. People didn't really get what I meant, because you pass so much of the details and the or the pattern that why this led down to this moment and why that was so important. And so you just kind of blurted it out, and you're like, that didn't really represent me well. And NI dominance, that's why they really don't like small talk. Small talk doesn't get to anything with NI depth. And that's why they kind of stand away from it. It's a system check. Hey, how is the weather? How was your weekend? And it feels like we're not going to, as NI dominance, people, they can feel like they're not getting to anything meaningful. Who cares what the weather's like? That's not very meaningful. And the thing is the NI dominance, and Carl Jung kind of called this out and said, you don't get to sit there and not engage with people just because you're so in your head. That's not the right thing to do. You have to go do that inferior. You have to go and put yourself out there. It's a skill. It's something that you have to work on, and it's something that you have to engage in, and you will get better. And you can go and learn about things. One of the channels that I really like that's out there that talks about that and talks about speaking and body language, and even specifically your body language and how that comes across. It's Vanessa Van Edwards, and she does a lot of things on body language, on speaking, how to communicate with people. So if that is something that you struggle with, especially as a introverted intuitive, I very highly recommend looking through her channel and learning about those things. And I think they'll help you make sure that your body language is open. But remember that just because you are an introverted intuitive, that does not mean that you can say, well, you just don't get me. You just won't understand, so I am not going to make the effort to have these conversations with you. You don't get to do that. You don't get to hide behind that and say, well, you're not going to get what I have to say anyway, so why bother? Of course, you have to try to be aware and work on seeing that information and interacting with it. And as a introverted intuitive, you have to go and just work on that. And if you feel like it is a very problem area for you, there are things that you can search out. Just simply search how to speak with people, how to have small talk. I'm sure you'll find plenty of resources and advice and ways that you can do that, and you will get better by doing it. So yes, it's normal to feel that way, and the way to do it, there's no shortcuts. You have to go and do it. We're all intuitives. This is the biggest thing that I can say to you, is you need to start saying yes. When people invite you out, when people say, hey, do you want to go out with me and my friends, you can't say no. You need to say to yourself, if you get invited somewhere, unless it's something dangerous or something you're like, that sounds shady, if somebody invites you somewhere, you need to say yes. Start saying yes so that you can begin to work on these things. You can't say no all the time and then wonder where everybody went. Say, nobody invites me anywhere. I don't have a lot of friends. Well, it's because you never said yes. If somebody says, hey, do you want to go to lunch? The answer is yes. If somebody says, hey, do you want to go out with us to the movies? The answer is yes. We're having a get together. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Because you need to go and work on those extroverted functions. And if you don't take the time, and if you don't put yourself in those situations, then you're never going to improve on it. You're never going to get the skills and the experience to improve. So you can't get better at something if you never go and do it in real life. That is my biggest thing for all of the introverts out there. To change your life, to start getting better at those skills, you need to start saying yes. So thank you very much to the Cactus Mantis and Ollie36 for letting me answer your questions on my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. And if you want your questions reviewed here, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And of course, leave a like and subscribe and all the thumb loves. I really do appreciate it. And we will see you in the next one.